Hello everyone, it's DuckFeren07 and today we are playing a Flash Tribal deck. So this is the deck based around these 8 cards. So first we have Errant and Giada. This is a new card from the March of Machine. It says that it is a 2/3 3-mana Flash Flyer that says you can look at the top card of your library and you may cast spells with Flash or Flying from the top of your library. You could also see the Flying Tribal. The previous video on my channel focusing on playing mostly creatures with flying and trying to be highly synergistic about it and do real tribal. And this time we have a flash tribal. It's another tribal using the same card, and we have some of the same cards we saw in that list too. Okay, so other than that, we have another very great payoff for the Flash Tribal, and it is the Slitterwisp. Some of you know this card. It says, whenever you cast another spell that has Flash, you draw a card and opponent loses 1 life. It's incredible what you can do with either of these cards on the field when playing this deck. Okay, so in order to utilize these cards, we are trying to play, of course, some cards with Flash. So what cards are we playing? Of course, the Slitterwisp and Errant Giada themselves both have Flash. And there is, of course, a Solitude, one of the best creatures in the format. 4-off with a Flash, you can play this from the top of your deck when Giada is on the field. And you can chain multiple spells from the top in some situations. There is also Subtlety, very good elemental that also can be played from the top of your deck, or when you have Slitterwisp, when you play the Subtlety, you draw a card and the opponent loses 1 life. It's really incredible once this engine gets going. There are also 2 Subtleties on the sideboard. So what else we have here? Spellsetter Sprite. So in the current meta game, where Rhinos, all the Cascade decks, and cards like decks like Murktide are dominating the meta game, Spellsetter Sprite can be really good. It focuses around, it counters the 1 or 0 mana spells when enters the battlefield, and it can be very helpful in the format. Also, it is like remotely playable in the format. It's very close to be playable, but once you have a Slitterwisp on the field, it also draws you a card and the opponent loses 1 life, so it becomes a real powerhouse once you assemble either of these on the field. Either you can play the sprites from the top of your deck if you have Giada, or if you have Slitterwisp, you draw a card, then it make it like extremely playable. Okay, so other than that, we have Leyline Binding, the top one of the top removals in the format. This card has Flash and also triggers the Slitterwisp when cast and can be cast from the top of your deck with Giada. So once you untap with Giada, you are in a very good position. Often you can use Fetch to control the top of your deck and find the spells you need, and it works very well. Okay, so because we are playing the Solitudes and the Subtleties and the Spellsetter Sprite, we have Ephemerate and we have some Undying spells. Okay, to better use those Undying spells, we also have the Grief, and we are trying to abuse these 1 mana blink spells and of course Grief, like many decks do. Of course, Slitterwisp also helps with the black card count. Okay, so I have been working really hard on this list, and this is so far my final list. I still have some options that I'm considering, and still trying to find the perfect list. I still haven't done it, but this is where I got by playtesting so far. I got mixed results. Best result I could get across like let's say 8 leagues was a 3-2. I got 3-2 like I think 3 times, and 3 times I got 2-3, sorry, and once I got 1-4. Sorry, it was a 1-3 drop, but the results weren't great, but also the lists I tried weren't that great. I was like experimenting a lot, putting a lot of weird stuff in the deck. There is also another version where I made completely different mana base. It's not completely different, it's a bit different using the Icefang Kotal. Icefang Kotal is a very playable modern card that also has Flash and has synergy with Slitterwisp. I definitely wanted to include it, but couldn't fit it in a Grief version. So in that version, I didn't play Grief. It was also a very playable version. Also very playable version. I also got 3-2 with that version. So as I said, I got decent results, but nothing spectacular. So I'm still finding the perfect list, but this deck can definitely be competitive, and it's definitely something. It's very close to going up to the higher power level. The biggest problem I got with the deck it was actually the mana base, and this is my final list. I tweaked after the last league, and I basically just played like two matches with this exact list. So I'm still not sure if this was if this version is better than the previous ones, but it definitely feels so. So we will watch some gameplay videos, but I just want to warn you that there will be some cards and also different mana bases that you don't see here that I was trying in the previous versions. And I will hopefully do another video with this exact version or the upgraded one. The other cards I considered here, obviously there are many cards, but for example, at first, in most versions, I played 4 Force of Negation main. This time, I decided to go for the 2-2 split, the main side. And cards, I didn't include cards like Spell Queller, which is very good card with Flash, but I already have 8 3-mana spells, and it would be too hard on the curve. So I decided to ditch it. Restoration Angel was pretty decent. Other option I tested, it was good, but it got trimmed by trying to include more lands because the mana base was giving me problems. And also Niambi is another card from 2 mana that I tried, and I was kind of liking it as a one-off, but it was not it was not good enough in some of the matchups. Okay, so also Ice Fang Kotal as very important other inclusion, but I already said in the version with the Ice Fang I didn't play the Grief, but I think you could easily with this updated mana base, and I'm now playing 3 Triumphs because the mana demands for this deck are really hard, especially when you're playing the Ice Fang 2. So I think now with this mana base, you could include also there should be overgrown tomb if you're playing the Ice Fang in. But if with this updated mana base, just plus the overgrown tomb, minus 1 triumph, I think the Ice Fang becomes a lot more playable. So it is possible, and I will maybe try it. But for now, this is the version I'm going to vid in my next league, and as I said, this is work in progress, and you will definitely have to follow the channel and have to follow the future videos to see where did I come with this exact list, and did I succeed to do better with it. Okay, so we will now go through the gameplay and watch some of the games. But I already warned you, it won't be this exact list. Okay, so. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, so I'm playing second, and I have a decent hand. I have the Ephemerate, the Undying spell. I play a lot of elementals in my deck, so it's just a matter of time before I get it. My opponent goes for the full domain, tries to play the Renin 6. I had Subtlety in my hand, so I decide to immediately scam Subtlety in and put my opponent's Renin 6 on top of their deck. So I got a 4/4 flyer on turn 1, which can be pretty good tempo. So I play my land, They go for the Wrenn and 6 again, but this time I use the Ephemerate again to so they put the Wrenn on top again. Just play their land. Still I get to attack with the subtlety, but unfortunately they had a binding. So this time I use my Nyambi. And to save the subtlety, and the opponent plays third time Wrenn, this time successfully. I just play a land and pass the turn, hoping to cast the Slither-Wisp. I think I forgot to play a land last turn accidentally, so I wasn't able to hold. So I just went Slither-Wisp anyway, and I had option to either save subtlety or play grief again, but I think grief was better version, and definitely it was. They had double tribal flames and the denial, so I just took one of the flames, but they top decked the Kavu, so they used another flame. So at this point they just had the stubborn denial in hand, and they were on 9 life at this point, and I was on 17, and they already used two of the tribal flames. So I was able to go like subtlety and end of turn, put some more pressure on opponent, hopefully put them on 3 life. They find a Kavu, which was actually pretty good for me. It was perfect for my subtlety. So they were just left with sorry, I guess they discarded denial on attack. So I was able to I top decked the Leyland Binding to get rid of the Scion, so I can attack with my subtlety, put my opponent on 3 life, and basically with the 0 cards in hand prevent them from getting back into the game. So that was game 1. So let's watch the game 2. Okay, I played 10 of those 1 mana blink spells, so I kept a double grief hand in hope of top decking one of those. Didn't get it. Opponent started with a turn 2 Kavu. Played a second breeding pool, which was pretty weird. Never saw a double breeding pool. But okay, so they played a second Kavu on their turn 3, plus hold the blue mana open, which is pretty good. And now I got the Undying Malice, but they already played both of their Kavus, so this was pretty bad. I just saw their hand and conceded the game, so it was time to start the game 3. That start was too good, and I didn't do anything in the first 2 turns, so that's it. Okay. Okay, I kept kind of the weird hand here. 2 lands, 2 of these ephemerate spells, 2 resto angels, but no elementals. If I get, of course, if I get the solitude, this becomes much better. But at this point, I also need more lands plus creatures. So let's see how this plays out. Of course, my opponent goes for the Kavu, and luckily I got the binding to get rid of it immediately. And yeah, as I said, I just needed 1 elemental, either solitude or grief. And the grief was great here, even better at this situation when I'm playing first. So I immediately discarded 2 Scions of Draco from their hand. Played a Rebound of Ephemerate, and the opponent goes for the Leyland Binding on my Leyland Binding in response. So that was basically everything I knew in their hand, and they were now left with 1 card in their hand. And but they had the cow on the field, which is pretty good. So it was definitely a top deck war at this point. Okay, in this version, as you can of course see, I played 2 Restoration Angels. This was one of the this was second variant. And here I didn't get a land, but I did get Leyland Binding, which was a great Greedy top deck at this point. Definitely just needed to get rid of this Kavu. Kavu presents such a good clock. And here opponent had the Leyline Binding for my Leyline Binding, so my attempt to get rid of it didn't end up well. I took 5 damage here, putting myself on 6 life. Opponent just played a land and had one card in their hand at this point. So I got the shock that didn't have much choice but to play this Restoration Angel and hope they don't get the Tribal Flames. But I did have the Resto, which I played on the draw step. I let them draw a card first, then play the Restoration Angel, blink my Grief. I'm risking them having the Bolt here. But yeah, they didn't have it, so I just discard the Knight of Autumn. Let them do the draw of this card. They discard the planes, and finally I trade with this cow, and I trade very well. They are able to kill just one of my creatures, and I still got the resto in hand. They got the Wren to finish my creature, but it was fine because I was in a very good position now. I had the Slitterwisp, and I had the resto. Once you get the Slitterwisp engine going, this deck is very hard to beat. I am on 4 life still, so every burn spell basically kills me, but they have very limited time to try to do so. So I go for the Vren kill this turn because I don't want them to top deck Bolt and ping me with Vren. So just go, that was the reason why I went for the Vren that turn, and now I have Resto plus Wisp dealing Restoration, and Angel is dealing damage. So this is very close to lethal. I just need another creature with Flash. So I go for it, and yeah, my opponent immediately concedes, so that was it. Um, that was the last game against Zoo. Okay, so let's go to the next match. In match 2, I started second. I had the Solitude scam, so it was very keepable. I also had a second Giada, but my opponent started with the Totsis to immediately get rid of my Solitude. Still, I had 2 fetches to play around Blood Moon. I had the Leyline Binding for the Blood Moon or their creature if needed, and they went in blind for a Fury scam. So I just find my Triumph, and get rid of the Fury, and have just really good hand for the continue of the game. So I just basically exiled the Fury here, and the opponent was stuck on 1 land, so they concede. That was it. Okay. They knew my hand also, but decided to go for it anyway. I got the ley line, so that was it. This was a good hand, but weak to the Blood Moon. I kept Leyland Binding. Had a lot of good stuff here, just not no fetches for the Moon. At this point, I had Dress Down. I just wanted to redraw here, just cantripping and preparing to play the Slitterwisp, hoping for the Slitterwisp to work. And my opponent goes for the Grieve here, taking the Dress Down. So I just really wanted to resolve the Slitterwisp. That was the reason why I didn't play anything else. So I went for the second Slitterwisp. I found the land, I played the plains, and now I can keep Ephemerate in case they try to kill my creature. I was low on life. I just didn't feel like I can let all this damage through, so I decided to trade with one of the Wisps. They play the Turak. I got the Giada here. It was pretty good, but but I was on too low on life, and I can't really block. I can't really block the Doughty, and I had limited options. Also, my malice doesn't work, so wasn't able to. I wasn't able to continue playing this. I just play Undying here for nothing because I was planning on conceding anyway, and they finished me off with the Fury, so that was the game. Okay, let's now see. I start with the Sacred Foundry. Sacred Foundry wasn't good in these early versions, preventing me from playing the what is it called, the Slitterisp on curve. So I changed that after a few leagues. I got the Swamp here, trying to play around Blood Moon, also had the island in hand, so I just played my Strand. Probably going for the Plains, because I have the Binding, in case they go for the Moon. They didn't do it, so I just play the Water Grave, so I have double black here. They do a mistake here and do the bolt on my turn, so I'm able to use the Malice. I can also, you can also use a fetch in this deck to try to put something better on your top of your deck. Opponent here decides to evoke Fury to get rid of this Giada, because obviously if Giada lives for a few turns, it's definitely hard to get out of that situation. So I play my third basic and finally play the Grief. Look at opponent's hand. The hand was actually pretty good. They had a lot of stuff there. I decided to get rid of the Turak. And they immediately go Fury, pitch cast, get rid of the Blood Moon from their hand, kill my Grief. It wasn't very good play. They could just use the Terminate, but okay. So they finally find their land and go for the Grief. Sorry, go for the Sheldred. That was decent for my subtlety. Also have the ephemerate for the next turn if they repeat the same play, so I start to get damage going. I'm also now able to cast Grief plus hold the ephemerate, which is great. Get rid of Grief from their hand. So I just let them play the Sheldred this turn. So now I put the Sheldred back on top, and then on my upkeep I target the Grief, get rid of Terminate from their hand, and opponent concedes the game at this point. Oh, we watched this one. Okay, so I just wanted to check that. Okay, so we can go to the next game. Okay, so this can be pretty decent hand, obviously, depending what am I playing against. Double Solitude plus Ephemerate obviously can be pretty good. This Sacred Foundry really not doing well in this deck. As again, I got rid of it after this league, and I slowly just continued upgrading the mana base. The mana base was really hard and did a lot of problems for me. I think in this early leagues with it, if I had better mana base, I could possibly do a 4-1 or even a 5-0. I was really close in the one league, but yeah, bad mana base definitely prevented me from trying to do so. So let's the damage here. Opponent goes for the Paladin, and in this situation I decide to go for the Solitude. They go for the Surge in response, so I have to use my Ephemerate instead of the Malice. So I just I kill the Giver. So I got just one ability, but I got the Ephemerate Rebound. which means I can use it to kill the paladin, and I still am holding the binding for my turn. And I also got the grief and the Undying Malice, but at this point I was more interested in just hard casting it and saving the Leyline Binding. Okay, I went for the Leyline Binding took the Paladin because they didn't have a green mana for the Havarmite, and now I find my 4th land, and now I was able to either cast the Grief immediately, start attacking, or just go for the Slitterwisp. I go for the Watery Grave, hard cast the Grief so I can start attacking with it, see what is the last card in their hand, and it is a Pure Steel Paladin, so a very good hit by Grief. And the opponent was now on 0 cards in hand with just 1 might on the field, no Sigarda's Aid. They got it now, but definitely in a top deck mode. They were still on 17, so plenty of turns for opponent to try to get something. I also got Slitterwisp in my hand, which was pretty good. Opponent is of course always close to top decking 1 hammer and killing me with the Nexus. So I was able to block the Havarmite here with the Slitterwisp, and now attacking for 9, which means 2 turn clock, also holding the Subtlety in case they find the Stoneforge. Yeah, they did find the Stoneforge, exactly, and which means I got my Subtlety in right time to prevent them from killing me from the top of their deck, and that was the game. Okay, so that was game 1, let's see the game 2. So my experience with this deck is that I was very good against combo, but not doing great against aggro. I was just very good against Cascade decks with the 4 Spellshatter Sprites in the main, and Spellshatter Sprites just performed very well against those decks, also against Murktide decks. They were also very good there. Of course, against Hammer Time, Spellshatter Sprite can do wonders. So I was good. I was great against Amulet Titan. I didn't lose any game to the Amulet Titan. I had the Grief on turn 1, plus the Solitude, plus the Slitterwisp Giada, finding them. So it gets pretty consistent if you can, and also have the sprites. If I'm playing first, I can use it to counter Summoner's Pact to counter the Amulet. Okay, so opponent goes for the constructs. So I'm playing a dress downs. In some variants, I also played 3 dress down in the main, so I also tried that. And they definitely help in these kind of matchups against construct tokens. They also have flash, so they work with both Giada and Slitterwisp, so they're pretty cool. Basically, I was just missing a white spell at this point, so I can play the Solitude and Undying Malice Solitude to get rid of both of these tokens, but I really have to find them on time. Okay, opponent goes for the equip here, they go for the 9 damage, which is definitely a lot. Still holding the sprite for this turn, hoping to get another white spell, and I did get it. So I go for it. They play the Surge of Salvation, which is perfect for my Spellshatter sprite. I just counter the Surge with the sprite. The sprite is just so good against Hammer. It counters the Sigarda's Aid, the Drums, the Surges, the Sentinels, Givers. You always have something to counter with it. And I got rid of both of their construct tokens, and now I'm in a very good situation. Opponent is just 3 cards in the hand, nothing on the field. They did find the Saga, but I kind of have some time to try to top deck something. Also have the Solitude here to regain some life and gain some time, of course. Try to find more Solitudes and more removals. So I just attack with my lifelink guy. They can equip, of course, and I attack with lifelink too, but my creature is bigger this turn, so I go for it. They play their Nexus, attack with Sanctifier, put Inkmot on the field, and pass the turn, attempting to use the Urza Saga, of course, to make more constructs. So I definitely need a top deck at this point. And yeah, this one is the one I was talking about. The card with a flash that works so well with both Giada and the Slither Wisp, and it demolishes the construct tokens. It can also help you kill creatures like Sanctifier. They got, unfortunately, another Saga, which was very good top deck for them, and they went to attack with everything. So I just play my Dress Down. I just play my block. I block the Sanctifier, play the Dress Down, and after this is very important. After the Dress Down resolves, then you play the Undying Malice, because if you play it before, it loses that ability and it doesn't come back. I didn't get the ability to kill the Havermite, but I really just want the 4/3 lifelinker. And now I survived the second saga, and again I was able to continue attacking with Solitude, gaining life, and I got the Slither Wisp, which is definitely what you want. Either Giada or Slither Wisp, you need it to close the game. Slither Wisp is even better because it. But your opponent also loses life, so it can be better in situations like this when you're trying to raise them. Holding both Subtlety, Slither Wisp, the ability to play any of them end of turn is also so good, and it makes you want to play also some counter spells. But yeah, still finding the perfect list. Opponent makes a construct here, so again, I'm in a situation where I need to find something to be able to get rid of this construct. That's why I have these. That's why I have those dress downs. As I said, at one point I also played 3 in the main. They can be so good against the constructs, and also uh, they just cycle. And if you have the Giada or Citaris, it's just direct card advantage. So I played my subtlety here just to do the draw. I find the ephemerate from the top, use it on my solitude to kill the construct token, and the rebound kills another construct token. So that is the way how I got rid of the third Urza Saga too. So I was this Slither Wisp also was just a huge help there. And yes, with some help from the top of my deck, I was able to win this match too. But I also just got always got enough time for the 2-3 draws to try to find stuff I need. Opponent goes for the Harshbringer here, so in response, I use my Ephemerate to kill one of the creatures. With the Slither Wisp on the field, it's just a matter of time before you start chaining flashcards into another flashcard and just quickly winning the game, especially when you got 2 of the Slither Wisps. It can get really powerful real quick. So especially when you have 2 of those, in a lot of situations, you can just chain like 4 or 5 spells in a turn with a flash, do a lot of damage. I go for the fetch here. I top deck a Spellsetter Sprite, which immediately draws me 2 cards, which is insane. So I go for the attack, of course. I stay back with one of the creatures. And just play my sprite to get cards. I really don't care about this attack. I hold sprite for the end of their turn, and didn't even play it. I probably skipped accidentally, or I just decided to hold it because I was winning this race, and I was able to finish the game immediately. I got the Leyline Binding. Sorry, Sprite. They had a Hushbringer, so Sprite wasn't even doing anything. But with the help from the two Slither Wisp, I was able to end the game immediately because each of these spells drain opponent for 2 life, and that was it. So that was game 2 against Hammer Time. Okay, so let's see like few more games. These were some bad mulligans here. Mulligan to 5 with no white mana, with 2 white spells in hand, so no big chance to win this. I think this was actually like okay. Opponent was playing red green brew using some of the new cards. They went for a turn 2 Blood Moon into Clotis, but I had all the 3 basics, which was pretty good. And pretty lucky to have these basics in my hand against the turn 2 Blood Moon. I was able to go for the Giada here. Try to block the Ragavan. Decided not to use the Solitude. I really wanted to ephemerate it. I was hoping for them to play more creatures, and they did. They played the Kogla. New card, Kogla and Jidaro, and now I was able to play the Ephemerate here to get rid of all their stuff, and I let the Ragavan hit me, but I kill it on my next step. And now they top deck another Ragavan, but I decide to trade with this one too. So it was a top deck war again. With the Blood Moon on the field, opponent probably in some advantage over me because I can't cast all of my spells. But definitely can some of them. They have a Fury here, and I didn't find what I needed, and that was the game. Yeah, I think I accidentally showed you the first game of the beginning of the next league. But it is fine, never mind. This was basically the same version as the previous one, but in this version I tried 2 Nightbonders in, and Nightbonders just weren't very impressive. I was afraid of them having some very good play here, but they ended up just cycling the land. It was good for me. I played my Bonder, but it lowers the cost of my creatures with flash, but not enough still to play the Solitude. They also got the Blood Moon on the field, and I find my binding on time, luckily. So they didn't have much at this point because it would be a hard situation for me. I did have like Solitude and Ephemerate, which is obviously good, and I also got like decent stop decks. I was able to play both Grief and Solitude in this situation because my Solitude costs 1 less. So I decide to to exile the Clotis and block the Arbor Elf, and my opponent concedes the game on the spot. That was it. Okay, so let's see the match 3. Okay, as I said, this is the game from the beginning of the next league, but it's fine. It enables you to see some other stuff I tried, like Cunning Nightbone, that I wasn't really happy about that card. And here I had the Grief on turn 1 plus the Binding on turn 2, which is pretty good. Got rid of Pyromancer and the Blood Moon from opponent's hand, so they were just on. They just had the foothills that I knew of. So I decided to go for the Ephemerate to check their hand again. It was just a forest, which was pretty good for me. I decided to not trade here, but to go for the Ragavan because my opponent just didn't have anything. And I was hoping to get enough time to just hardcast my other creatures and start attacking. And I got the Grief here and saw two Furies in opponent's hand. But they missed a land drop to kill my Griefs, and the next turn I had the Subtleties, so that was the game. And yeah, so let's see one of the losses. For example, this one, this was, I think, the start of the league, which I skipped because I always show the wins first and the losses in the end. This was the deck we saw first. Okay, my opponent played the Hammer. Turn 1, a Giver of Runes. I decided to immediately go for the Subtlety and then Grief on my turn. Trying to play this really aggressive. Had the second land in my hand plus the Giada, so it feels like pretty good. And I got rid of all the spells from my opponent's hand, but unfortunately they had two Urza Sagas, which was like the best thing they could have against me. I went for second Ephemerate just to see more lands in their hand, but it was not good news for me because still 2 Saga was pretty hard to beat with this hand. I did start attacking with Grief and I had the Giada to try to find the top of something from the top of my hand deck, but didn't my dress downs in this version were on my sideboard, not in the main board, so this was not good news for me. Okay, Giada won't always work, but it mostly works. And when you have fetches, you can like look at the top of your library, and sometimes it can really get out of your control. I did get the Slitherwisp here, which was great. I was able to cast it with Giada, but it was too late because they had 4 constructs here, so that was the game. Okay, so this Giada and Slitherwisp often will work very quick. Maybe you won't get this on the same turn some profit, but very soon you will find stuff on the top of your deck to play and just quickly overwhelm your opponent. Okay, so especially if you have like 2 of these effects, if you have both Giada and Slitherwisp, it can get really crazy. Okay, so this was a tough game against Hammer Time. This was basically a match 1 of the league we went through today. Okay, so game 2 against Hammer. I had Solitude plus Grief plus Ephemerate, which is pretty good against Hammer Time deck, but I think my opponent just had the nuts. Also did find the Grief here, and discard. They just had very good hand. I decided to discard. Two Stoneforge and a Hammer Time, but they top decked another Stoneforge, finding them another hammer, which means I just wasn't able to discard all the 3 hammers. So pretty crazy hand by the opponent. I decided to jump here. My opponent played their 3rd hammer. I discard the previous 2 ones. I play another Grief. I was like in okay position here, just trying to. I did get to enough lands to cast my Solitude, but opponent finds the Blacksmith skill from the top of their deck, which was just incredible draw. They were stuck on lands, but the draws were really good, and I was missing 1 land here to try to play both of these creatures. And I did finally got the Slitherwisp into play. I got the Giada, which was good. I got the Solitude on top of my deck, which, as I said, can become pretty crazy sometimes. But my opponent has the Lavinia, and Lavinia basically makes all of this much harder for me. So they go for a another Stoneforge, third Stoneforge, finding the Shadow Spear, and I played the one of Nyambi here. I said Nyambi was decent, and I was able to like gain 3 life, put Giada back to my hand, but I failed here. I should have. It wasn't a good. It was like a bad position anyway, because they had a Shadow Spear in hand, and plus top deck. I think this was fourth Stoneforge or third one, and they found fourth Colossus Hammer. So I think this was just a pretty crazy hand by my opponent, and they just had everything. So I still had the sprite. For the Shadow Spear, but I forgot they have the Stoneforge, which they can use. So I just do the redraw here and find the binding on top, but I can't play it at this turn. Don't have a mana, and that is the game. But it was really close. I was just a turn away, definitely turn away from just playing this Leyline Binding on Lavinia, exiling Lavinia, then playing the Solitude, drawing more cards, and I think that at that point it would just get out of control and I would win. But yeah, opponent got me exactly on time, and that was it. Okay, so I showed you one game extra, I think. Okay, and that is the entire league. And as I said, in the leagues you saw, I wasn't playing this exact list. I played a verse mana base. I played four rebirths with 2 less lands and 2 less malice. I think this is much better. I lose 2 spots in the main, but I put 2 forces I played in the main on the sideboard. Also, Dress Down was a very important card in a lot of matchup. It's the card I'm considering also to play like 2 in the main, 2 in the sideboard. There are definitely a lot of options here. Spellslotter Sprite was great in the Hammer Time matchup, was great in the Cascade matchups, and it was just very useful. And you always kind of have something to do with it, but it's not a very good beater. If it was like a 2-1 creature, this creature would be amazing. We need a 2-1 Spellslotter Sprite. If we can get a 2-1 Spellslotter Sprite, I think that creature would be like really playable. And yeah, that's it. Or a 2-2. 2-2 would be like pretty good. That it not doesn't die to Brennan 6. Okay, but whatever. I feel like this deck has a very, very good potential. I am excited to try to upgrade it, play with it again, and finish the league I started with this exact list. This exact list feels better than the previous ones, and I'm hoping that this is the like what I the good direction. I'm also kind of want to include more dress downs, so I'm still thinking about ditching the Teferis. Celestial Purge here are against a scam matchup. It's also another solution for the Blood Moon. I think this is a very good choice. Temporary Lockdown to help with the Hammer Time, to help with the hardened scales. Additional copies of subtleties. Subtleties are so good in a lot of matchups, especially in this deck where there's just additional value you get from the Giada or Citaris with them. Force of Negations, really necessary. I'm still not sure. Do I play 4 of them in the main or 2 to split? It's like really good card. Dress Down has been really important. I think I'm cutting the Fairies, putting the third dress down, at least on the sideboard, maybe even consider some in the main. And that's it. I already have sprites for the Cascade matchup, so maybe I don't need the fairies on the side, so I can get some free spots like that. Add the third dress down probably, and consider some other options. There is just Restoration Angel has been good. You saw it in that league we played. It was decent. Nyambi was very playable. Dress down in the main was a cool option. There is the 4 mana a flash guy that can kill a creature or counter a spell and makes your opponent draw a card. It's cool if there is a Venser. It's also playable. A lot of playable cards still there. Spell Queller too, obviously, but hard to fit them all. I'm still debating if the Ice Fang Kotal version is better, or the Grief version, or I just play both. So that is my main debate right now. If I play the Ice Fang Kotal in this deck, I finally made the mana base which can support the Kotal pretty good. It's very similar to this one. It just plays one less Triumph. It plays the Overgrown Tomb, and I think I play one Snow dual land. And that's it. Okay, so hope you like the video. Hope you like the gameplay. And if you want to help the channel, click like, click subscribe on the channel, leave the comments in the video, and let me know in the comments what other options, if I haven't mentioned them or haven't considered them in the video, would you like to see. Also, like some recommendations. I'm open to all the considerations, but definitely I have to. There are also lots of options I did try and didn't like them and I didn't mention them. But yeah, I would like you to leave the comments from the card with the flash you would use that I maybe didn't mention, and I can hopefully also find some good ideas like that. And that's it. Okay, so I think I'm definitely making another video of this list, so you can follow it to see how did I upgrade it, how did it go, did I succeed to do better than the 3-2, and that's it. Okay, for today, goodbye.